Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Spin Rack. Oh, my goodness. News, news, news. We're probably always a little late here, but Prince Markie D of the world famous Fat Boys passed away, unfortunately. You know, one of the premier OG groups of the 80s, unfortunately, passed away recently. RIP. So I'm here with the boys. I want to talk about him because, you know, he was from the city, of course, and the impact that they had going on.
Brooklyn. The city is Brooklyn.
The city of Brooklyn, bro. I know what I'm saying.
Don't forget, Prince Markie D was also a solo artist.
Yes, he was. So, Petey, I'm passing it all to you. So, give us some information here, baby.
I want to also say RIP to Prince Markie D. And the big fan of the Fat Boys. The first cassette that I bought was it might have been LL. LL's Bigger and Deafer, and then Big and Beautiful, which would be their second album, which is what I bought. I listened to many times over. And they had Sex Machine on there. It had what else did it have on there? It had Human Beatbox 3, which was done in the style of the bridge, sort of like that introducing, like coming from this, that, and the other. But basically, they were a big thing. The Fat Boys were on. They were on Miami Vice. They got their own movie deal. They showed up on Regis a number of times. They were on Regis, and these three they meant basically the fact that they basically came up with a simple routine. They would perform, dance, beatbox. The beatbox was also the DJ, who's Doc Nice. He called also the Buffy went as Doc Nice, and they were very talented group. And that's one of those early rap groups like Run DMC and and LL. All these guys were great performers. They were known for rocking the house. All of these old Salt and Pepper, their thing was to tear down these shows. And it's hard to say, these are just local guys trying it in hip hop who I think I've watched recent interviews where they said they wanted to be in football, but they were a little too small as far as height. So then they went to do hip hop, and they did a contest by chance. They wanted the DJ equipment, and of course, what did they get? They got the record contract, and then what do we do with this? They found out what they can do with this, traveling all around the world, and they changed their name from the Disco 3 to the Fat Boys. But this was my quintessential group only because they were mostly into doing freestyle raps. So when you hear the Bird Stickum, you see the Human Beatbox songs. They did have songs with stories like All You Can Eat, like In the House, that sort of stuff. In the house, that was like that saying you used to say all the time. Oh no, you're in the house. That thing was like they had some great music and whatnot, but ultimately it's that freestyle where they would do basically like the way you think you sort of hear what like Kane do, you hear Jay-Z and those guys, which would be different from what like Slick Rick would do stories all the time. They would do just a basic freestyle like rhymes for like the whole song, which is what I really liked. And when I was thinking about trying to get into hip hop, that's what I would do. So, but I always keep them in mind. And I think my last bit is that hip hop kind of didn't celebrate them once they, as we all say in hip hop, fell off, right? The success wasn't as big anymore. And then it was just something that they said like, oh, like these guys were, their thing was being fat and eating. Like, no, these guys were talented. They had the Can You Feel It? All these great songs, all these fun songs that they did. Regretfully got overshined by the Wipeout songs and the Twist and all that other stuff. And they were supposed to be doing a second movie, but that's when Markie D left the group. But it's interesting to hear that twist and turn. So I'm gonna pass it off to Cal. I know he has a lot to say, and then I'm gonna come back.
Huh? What?
Cal, what do you got to say?
I mean, we got to forget that.
You don't have to go that heavy. I'm just saying. I'm kidding. It's just this is more.
Well, my first exposure to the Fat Boys that I can remember. I know I'd heard their music before because I remember going to see Crush Groove, and that's where I remember. I knew the songs, so just about everybody went there. Everybody knew the music, so that was my first exposure to them. And they just were they were the comedy relief. They were the comedy relief of the film. But everybody remembered them. I think after that they got another film. Was it Disorderlies?
Yes.
Got another film, Disorderlies, and I thought the music was fun, even up to the stuff with Wipeout and the Twist. It was without a doubt, it was without a doubt some. It was probably the most popish bubblegum hip hop that you could ask for. But I actually like those tunes, so I didn't have any problem. I didn't have any problem with them. What I also, the more issue that I would have had was that they did Wipeout, and Wipeout was enough to put them back, not necessarily just on the map, but also broaden their base. I remember the name of the album. It was called Coming Back Hard Again, and they had Wipeout on that album. So I thought, that's how ironic is that? But what I thought was that, okay, you did Wipeout, and Wipeout actually worked for them. And then it became, all right, so we're just going to keep doing these type of songs. So after Wipeout, they did Quiz. After Twist, they did Louie Louie. They just, okay, now he said, no, this is like a joke now.
Yes.
This is a joke now at the end of the day. But, okay, Markie D then comes out and says, look, I'm going to do some stuff on my own. And he did. What did he do? What was it? Was it Swing My Way?
Yep, Swing My Way, yes.
Yeah, baby, you need to swing my way. Markie D hook you up in a flyway.
Yes.
You know, so obviously it wasn't that they didn't have, it was never a question of talent. I think some of the decisions that got made were may have been more based on the fact that, hey, you guys are supposed to have appeal as a funny group, you know, more comic than anything else, and not saying, oh, look, we can actually do some other songs as a group, and it doesn't have to just be, you know, comedy in terms of being the Fat Boys, because Markie D on his own did a couple of tunes, and again, these were just like standard hip hop tunes at the end of the day, not where they had to necessarily pigeonhole. He didn't pigeonhole himself into the whole comedy thing that the Fat Boys might have been. But and I do agree. I mean, these are the guys who are coming out of the golden age of hip hop. Okay, they're coming out of the golden age of hip hop, and a lot of those guys who I would remember. Oh yeah, I remember this tune. You know, Just Ice, Latoya. You know, stuff I really enjoy. Nobody knows about these cats whatsoever, and I can understand why they don't. But the Fat Boys, yes, these are one of these groups that should be on unsung at the end of the day. They were very, very crucial to that early success of hip hop in the golden age. And yeah, it's a shame that they aren't recognized more until one of them passes away. Hopefully we won't wait until the very last Fat Boy passes away before they do get some recognition for the contributions they made in those halcyon days.
Hopefully they'll get a movie on BET, you know, where they have the whole Fat Boys. But you know, one thing that Markie D did, Prince Markie D, was that he was also a producer. You know, he was the producer for, I think, Mary J. Blige, I think her first album, what's the 411, and one of her songs, Real Love. So I mean, that's, you know, he produced for Jennifer Lopez, and you know, I believe for Mariah Carey. So he had his own show on XM Studios, you know, for a while. So it's he was in the industry for quite a bit of time, and he was what is it? I think one of them another one had also passed away. Remember?
Yeah, that's the thing. Buffy passing away is the hardest thing, because it wasn't something that was kind of celebrated, because it's kind of, or even you know, like really remorseful of. It was kind of like, well, that, you know, like so much in hip hop we kind of throw away. Like people try to throw away Dana Dane. We say, oh, that's too similar to Slick Rick. Why does anyone like this guy? And it's just like,
because Dana Dane came first.
well, the thing was, you just can't do. You can't be our beginnings. And there's a point where if you look at the Slick Rick songs, and then you have no Slick Rick for who knows how long, and you have all these classic Dana Dane songs, and people don't understand. It's like, oh, because in that period you couldn't be similar. Like, no, they knew each other. But when you look at it, Buffy's passing, and then we have to find out watching these things, and you hear like behind the scenes, Markie leaves the group before he hits the big success, and Fat Boy's still making some money. And they say Buffy gave Markie money to hold him down during this period when they're broken. So these guys stayed friends, and they were trying to do a comeback Fat Boys album before Buffy passed. So that idea, trying to get his weight down and that sort of thing. So this thing of hip hop, of kind of like quantifying it to say like Tupac and Biggie is like the end all be all for anything. You can't go anywhere without asking, what was the effect of Biggie and Tupac on you? when you
From
had
the Fat Boys.
well, yeah, that's the only thing that these interviewers they have. The only thing they can say is bring up Tupac and Biggie when it's just like you had so much. When Biggie is almost the next stage of what the acceptable fat guy that gets all the women, the romantic fat guy. Like that's something we can't even call him that anymore. But the idea that they were the guys that were like, you see him in the Can You Feel It? With the girl that looks like this girl from my school, and I'm like, oh my, like Markie got the hottest one. It's Big Pimpin' before Big Pimpin'. The whole video of Can You Feel It is the same thing.
But
And
Like,
Keith, you know what? One of the
did
reasons why
not.
they're not remembered as well is because rap changed. It went to the gangster rap type of look. So all that other stuff was looked as soft, is not like
Soft,
it looked.
soft. Maybe you could say Dana Dane was soft, but you can't say Dana Dane with fame was soft. Dana Dane with fame. Dana Dane with
fame.
So going back, so everything before that, I mean, we had great back then. Those artists had to work their butts off to get people to look at them.
No, they made it look easy.
I know,
yeah.
but
You see Crush Groove when they do their little dance and everyone loses it. Like that rocked the whole house, the whole movie theater loses it. Like they do the little sweat. They on time. Oh no.
all those guys who came out of that time, where they didn't have record deals and they had to go and sell these things in small clubs and they had to make sure they were killing it, so that when they finally made it big, and sell millions of albums or hundreds of thousands of albums back then, it wasn't millions, that they were doing really well. So we knew these guys, just like, um, Dougie Fresh, who came after him. And let's not forget the beatboxing, I think they came out with the beatboxing. Well, there was beatboxing before, but they paved the way for like Dougie Fresh,
No, well, Dougie was before.
Biz Markie.
Dougie was before them, but Buffy. That's the thing. They say the difference with Buffy was that Buffy was the loudest, and he made it so popular. He made it so like everybody had to have a beatboxer because they were like saying if you're next to him while he was performing, it was just like, where's that bass coming from?
I know. Off the chain, off the chain. And then another big man, Biz Markie, was a beatboxer too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? So, but again, it
Fat,
came in
fat.
gangster rap, and we forgot all about it, right? Everybody went hardcore. I remember going away for the summer and coming back, and I'm like, yo, what happened to what's his name?
Fat, fat.
Ain't no half stepping.
I'm gonna have the Big Daddy Kane.
Yeah, Big Daddy Kane. Next thing I come back and it's all NWA. I'm like, yo, what the hell just happened? Just for a summer.
Oh no, Kane did that to himself. He shot himself in the foot with that Taste of Chocolate album. He shouldn't have done that.
Stop it. Stop.
Okay, Kane did not need to be singing on that album. All right, that album was some experimental stuff at the end of the day. But then he came back with what is it? He came back with some hard stuff with like the next couple albums. But by that time, it was too late.
Look, as an artist, that's what I appreciate. Yeah, you could be Jay-Z and do straight hip hop, or straight gangster stuff the entire album. But at some point, you gotta be an artist and say, you know what? I like soulful stuff. I'm gonna do stuff with Blue Magic. I still got a hottie in the video that y'all couldn't get. I got
that was good.
Huh?
No, that song right over there. And that was on the second album.
Which one?
That was on the second. What was the first album? No Half Stepping.
With Long Live the King.
What was the second album?
Big Daddy thing.
Yeah, that was the whole thing with Blue Magic. That was on the second. That was on the second album, and I thought that worked. That was a nice change of pace on the second album. But on the third album, I was like,
about him and Barry White. That's the song you're going at.
Is that there was that one, some other ones on there too, and I was like, he had a really good tune on there with I Can Do It Right, and I was like, yeah, they even had a kazoo in that one. It sounded really cool. It's really funky tune. But then after I was like, no, this is too uneven, man. It was like tune here. It was like when Cool J decided to do some rock tune on Walking with the Panther. I was like, okay, you want to do something a little bit different. But it wasn't like that 5 or 6 tunes like that, on the album. I was like, it's too much of this right here. I was like, no, people are just not going to react to it. And they didn't.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, I just think we as fans especially when we were like in the '80s, like people were ready to throw out the fell off thing like 2 seconds after you came out. Like it was just like it was so hard to sort of stay in there. Like I remember I always joke about it that who's that Rakim had the first two hits, and then next thing you know, when he put the album came out like '87. The other songs were like '85, and then the rest of the album comes out later. And I was you had to be home taping that stuff. But when I would start to say that in the neighborhood, and I said it, I was still singing one of them, and I got soul, and my brother like, what song is that? And I said, that's Rock Him. He's like, Rock Him, the guy who did those songs way back when, like it's only like no, he's putting out the album now. Like the idea we were ready for the one hit wonder with the hip hop all the time. We were always worried about another rapping dude. We just like, nope, we liked it at one point and now it's trash. We know
hip hop had the term back in the day, and back in the day was like referring to 6 months ago.
The shelf life of the art itself was questionable, even though the music people, the studio, the record labels are putting it on the shelf, but then the fans are like, oh no, that's played out. That's played out. Like it still could be a banger, and you could be like, nah, that's old. I remember I had a thing with My Melody on there, and I had a tape and I had all these new songs, and I brought it to Tilden. And this guy in my class was listening to it, and he was like, My Melody came out, oh, that's old. And then the girls like, nah, this is, the girls are dancing in class to it. But yes, I just think the shelf life, and yes, the missteps can kind of hurt your career as it hurts anyone else. But we think of this as a culture. And when we say it's a culture, and then we also say falling off, that two things don't go together. So it's like, once we realize it's a culture, we need to go back and listen to it and realize that the Fat Boys had a symphony before Marley did. The Fat Boys had the iconic, the logo is iconic. I look at it and just like, wow, they had someone really do up a good logo. It's simple, but it's a cool logo. So, I mean, these guys, I want to give them their due. R.I.P. Buffy, who's passed a while before, R.I.P. Prince Markie D, and Kurosky is still out there doing it. There's a ton of interviews with him. Go check him out. He's still got bars. They're funny that they so kind of fell into hip hop, and they became this big thing that was the Fat Boys Mania. That's the thing. And then they were getting more girls than most of those people out there. They're killing it. They're killing the game going overseas, bagging all them girls.
I remember in an interview they were talking about that, but that was because they had the promoter was a guy, a Swiss guy, right?
Yes.
And
yeah.
They did I remember one thing when they were having that contest on WBLS to pick rap groups, the best rappers or whatever. And I guess this was organized by the record company or whatever. And I was like, wow, anybody can do it, man. I can do it too. But of course we couldn't do it.
No, I would have never thought about at that point I wasn't rapping at all. So it wasn't much later. But the idea of having a dance routine, would have never done that sort of thing. I think what was it? No, what's the name went on tour? I think Xavier on Block, he did do a couple dancing on the tour before he really got into the bodybuilding. So
yeah. So hey, thanks for being with us as we go over Marky Mark and the Fat Boys. All right.
If you haven't seen Crush Groove, okay, if only for the scene where they get on the stage and they're telling people, "Come on, let me hear you say Fat Boys," and there's this girl in the audience and she's just ready to mock like Fat Boy, and then the music comes in, Fat Boy, and literally, I mean, well. Did you see it in the theaters, Mars? Crush Groove?
I know. I think I did see it in the theaters. Yeah.
I just remember how the whole audience was. Everybody knew the tune. So when they were playing the music, it was like a little mini concert. Inside the theater. I'm surprised. Anytime I think about that, I'm surprised that my parents let me go to see that. I'm thinking how organized it was. It was nothing but young people there. I think it was a double feature. It was a Crush Groove and Transformers the movie, and somehow It was a peaceful day. Nothing bad happened that day.
Well, it was a different type of. It was a different type of rap movie. Everybody was getting together and having a good time.
Yeah,
No.
only for that, if only for that scene in the movie, because their storyline in the movie plays out. I mean, there's like three different stories lines going on in the movie, but their storyline plays out very well. They want to get on. They want to, they want to rap. They even win the contest, and when they win the contest, they get into an argument because they're like, "Look, you got a recording contract. No, we want the stereo equipment." They had to be like literally forced. No, you're taking the contract. You want the contract. Take the stereo equipment.
I mean, I think
their story in there was like that was very well done. Music, the music they did was a lot of fun too. So only for that scene, that was just really good stuff.
I mean, it was a loss that we went strong. That everybody went towards the hardcore gangster rap. Like I said, it was a shame that that's what became the predominant music instead of just people having fun.
Well, New York.
That's what I grew up with, the party rappers.
Well, that's the thing I want to point out. Like, there's a part in what's the name that I don't think the audience today would understand. Can you feel it? Where he says, grab up a girl, and like most people would listen to that and say, what does he mean? It's like, no, because back in the days, the house party was the slow dance. Like, yeah, you would do the hip hop dancing, but then there'd be like a long period of the rest of the night of just to be nice to say the slow dance. But I want to go back to what's that thing? The Crush Group. Because in Crush Group, when I saw it, it was a bunch of us from my block. We're there, and outside of enjoying it and having that musical feel, there's parts that were kind of questionable. The best one was when Run gets mad and he just goes and he takes his money and he throws it, and then there's like a pause, and then my brothers just yelled out and screamed, "You know he's gonna pick up that money," and the whole place fell out. But that was a classic movie experience going to see Crush Group. And then when he's Blair Underwood's with Sheila E., and he comes up behind her, and everyone in the audience said, "Oh!"
That was cool. It was cool. I mean, I don't know. That's like one of the most seminal movies for me growing up. Crush Group. What was that other one with the dragon? Not Enter the Dragon. What was it again?
Talking about The Last Dragon.
The Last Dragon. Kid and Play. I mean, those were movies that I used to love seeing again and again. That those were like, yeah, that was when I was growing up, having a good time, happy to be out there. Not like, NWA, I'm gonna be like blasting people and the cops getting shot. No, that was because, like I said, I went away for one summer and came back and like, landscape totally changed. Kane was number one when I came back in August, September. I was like, Kane ain't number one no more.
Well, then you also had to go to Disorderlies for Troy Bayer. You got to go to Disorderlies for Troy Bayer. Don't throw Troy Bayer aside. If you're questionable on that, then go see Prince's Sexy MF. To see what I mean.
That's not Purple Rain.
You and you get in the car.
You and you get in the car.
I didn't see
like
that.
Markie made out like he gets to have the love interest of Troy Bayer. This is crazy.
Yeah, I think you got the Crush Groove album when it came out too.
Do you like it like this? I like it like that. Well, do you like it?
Do you still have the Crush Groove album? That's the question.
Don't have it. The Beastie Boys. They had Force MDs. Tender love.
Funniest moment. This is true, okay? Because I went to the movies with my sister. Funniest moment of the movie is New Edition is in the movie.
Yes.
Okay. New Edition is in the movie, and literally, because like a whole bunch of guys were like, look, we ain't coming for New Edition. New Edition is for these chicks, what have you. So literally, New Edition comes on stage, like 6 guys all got up together. And they were like, let's break. I was like, okay, this is the bathroom break right here.
Wow, that's fun.
That was hilarious.
should have made more money in movies like that. So, gentlemen, let's wrap it up. Anybody, anything else?
No.
That's it. We
All right. So, hey,
to
again,
Buffy and Markie, and keep the legacy going of the Fat Boys.
yes. Iraq
Out.
Out. Thank you guys.